Hi, so you may remember a while back I purchased this 3D printer off eBay. It was about £100, pretty cheap. What it's kind of classed as is a rep wrap. It's pretty much a AirNet A8 clone crossed with a little bit of a Persia i3 in it as well. So you've probably seen the build video of that one, and I've been trying to get around to doing a review on it. Now, it's been difficult to review this printer because out of the box I had a lot of issues with it. Number one, as you're probably aware if you watched the video, the glass bed that I received was broken, so I had to go ahead and order another glass bed. Adhesion issues, couldn't get it to stick to the bed properly, lots of bed levelling, trying hairspray, all sorts of different things. Now I'm sure a lot of that was just a bit of a learning curve for me and I hadn't sort of really sussed it out fully, but I did in the end start using like glue stick and that actually works really well. Now, modifications, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. Number one, these lead screws. These, as you may remember, were very much a standard threaded bolt type screw thread, and they were just so bent that it was ridiculous. You try and print anything and you just get waviness continuously through it. So I brought these lead screws off eBay along with these flexible couplings. These bearings which I managed to mount at the top just to secure it a little bit better. Now they seem to work quite well. That was a really good mod. That certainly improved the printing quality massively. Before then I really wasn't getting very good prints at all. Other problems I did have was this. It's very, you can see, you have to keep tightening these bolts up. One of them came loose quite badly at one point and I wondered what was going on. So I had to sort that out, but yeah, you get a lot of wobble. The bed also started coming loose, so I had to re-tighten all the nuts and bolts to hold the bed down. So I think in general, when it comes to building a printer like this, it's probably best to double check the every single nut and bolt to see what the tension's like on them first before putting the whole thing together and then realising you've got to start stripping it apart again. Now, the extruder I did a few upgrades on. You may remember in the other video it was actually flipped the other way around, so I went for a metal extruder. The only problem was the mounting position of it meant that I had to rotate everything this direction, otherwise I couldn't fit everything in. This would have obviously hit the back of it, so that took a bit of work. Obviously had to drill some new holes in the brackets to reposition that, but that works quite well now. Wiring, left that the same. I did use some Copax for the heated bed wires, just neatens it up a bit. I haven't done anything with the firmware yet. Things I printed like with this dial here, fine. Yeah, haven't done anything with the firmware. I need to do something with that because with the adding the lead screws you have to recalibrate your steps for that, and obviously because this doesn't have the bootloader you can't save any kind of settings onto it. They just get lost as soon as you turn the printer off. Now I was using Octoprint, Octopi I suppose, on the Raspberry Pi to control this. I actually had that mounted on the side. I've since removed that and there is a reason for that. But with that I did have it set as a in G-code to send a command to adjust the step height, and that was perfectly fine. But I would still like to get round to actually adding a bootloader onto it and then being able to flash something better on that I can modify much more. Print quality, pretty good. This is a vase I made with it, well say made, vase that I basically just printed. Hopefully you can see that. Turned out really well. Nice bottom layer there as well. Actually some of these prints have turned out a lot better than I was expecting from such a cheap printer. Now I was saying about the fact that I took the Raspberry Pi off. The reason being is I've now got the Ender 3 printer and the Raspberry Pi is now mounted to that, controlling that. As far as I understand, I can actually, if I get a long enough USB cable, they're literally, well, I'll show you, it's terrible. I've got like that on that desk and that on that corner. This is supposed to be my living room as well, but this is a flat, so it's difficult. So yeah, I've got the Ender 3 there, and this one is sat over here at the minute. So yeah, that's why the Raspberry Pi is not mounted on it. But as I was saying, long enough USB cable, you can set up multiple profiles on the on Octopi for different printers, which obviously I've got the existing profile for this and the other profile, but I need to modify it because if you put in any kind of G-code commands, and I'll be adding auto bed leveling to the Ender 3, if you put in any G-code commands in there, it seems to apply them to both profiles. So if I have G commands that are going to sort out the auto bed leveling when I do a print on the Ender 3, it's going to try and do that on this printer as well. I haven't seen a way of separating G-code commands and pinning specific commands to specific printer profiles. I don't know if I'm missing something there, but I couldn't see anything in the settings. So overall, this printer's not bad. I mean, once you get over the fact that you do really have to probably change to lead screws, that does involve a fair bit of sort of, if you want to put these bearings on, you've got to drill some holes in there, sort that out. It's not a bad printer once you get it tuned right, and admittedly I still need to really tune all the firmware and do like tuning on the extruder and stuff like that. But once you get it roughly right, you can get some pretty good quality prints out of it. So it is a worthwhile printer, but I would say at a much lower price, because the Ender 3's come in and the Ender 3 really just pisses all over this thing. This thing is pathetic in comparison to the Ender 3. But if you've got a very limited budget and you can pick up one of these for under £100, as long as you're willing to put the work in to do some modifications, then it's not too bad. You will have to keep these greased with something. As you can probably hear, that's pretty rough because the linear bearings are getting all clogged up, so that is a downside. It does collect the dirt and the dust and it sort of clogs up the linear bearings. I haven't used any specific grease on it apart from just some silicone spray here and there at the moment. Maybe some Livian grease or some actual silicone grease might be beneficial. Obviously the choice is yours. Heats up quite well. Oh yes, there's another mod I did make, was changing the bed. Completely forgot about that. Apart from the glass, the heated part, I've taken the PCB heater off and put on a aluminium heater. Unfortunately this one is actually slightly faulty and it heats up pretty much all on one side and you have to wait for it to spread out. I did get in contact with the seller, but the seller was needing like resistance measurements and everything else to confirm what was wrong, and well, I just forgot about it and never really got round to it, so I've just left it as it is. But it works fine. You just really need to leave the bed a bit of time to preheat so that it spreads the heat evenly across the surfaces. It is a bit noisy, not too noisy, but people sort of say about the Ender 3 being a noisy printer. Well, this is a lot louder than the Ender 3, so you might want to bear that in mind if you are trying to print somewhere where, if you've got a place separate to put it out of the way of your living area, that's fine, but if you are printing in your living area, you will need to be aware of the noise that the printer does make. So, in summary, it works. It does print, but you do need to put time in to do modifications to it, to just set things up perfectly, and pretty much mainly just the lead screws. That is the most important thing that needs to be done. And ideally you want to be reflashing the firmware because you haven't got any thermal runaway protection, etc. That's just something that I've done it on the Ender 3, I just haven't got round. Since I got the Ender 3, I've just kind of ignored this printer a lot, so I haven't really got round to it. Now, one thing I've got to decide now is, what do I do with this printer? Now I've got the Ender 3, I've not really been using this to print anything, so should I get a laser head, make it into a laser cutter? Should I get a tool head to put a milling tool in? I'm not really sure, so if you guys want to leave in the comments what you think I should do with the printer. If anybody wants the printer, if you want to buy it off me, you're more than welcome, but I can't guarantee that I can package it very well without it sort of getting half destroyed in packaging. Anyway guys, sorry that was a bit of a short video and a bit of a ramble about it, but hopefully you get the gist of what this printer is like and the kind of quality that you can get from it once you've got it calibrated correctly. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. But remember to subscribe guys, and click the bell notification so you get an email when I next upload a video. Thanks for watching guys. See you soon.